What's going on, everybody? So before we get into what we're going to talk about today, I just wanted to say this channel is presented by AfterDark Sports and Browns After Dark. Please be sure to check out Browns After Dark every Sunday and Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Follow us at Browns After Dark on Twitter. What's up, guys? I have an exciting announcement for you today. I can now officially say that I am proud to be partnered with the Offside Sports Network. You might be asking yourself, well, what does that mean? Well, nothing on this channel is really going to change as far as what you see and hear, but this is going to open the door to more opportunities for things such as more shows, podcasts, merch down the road, sponsorships, and it's going to allow you to be a part of a fantastic community. I am very happy to be involved and partnered with the Offside Sports Network. Be sure to go check out the Discord if you would like. People in there non-stop just about every day. It's a fantastic community you're going to want to be a part of. So be sure to check out the Discord and follow Offside Sports Network on Twitter. All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the first ever Browns After Dark podcast. This is, you're not used to seeing our faces, but here we are. So I got a couple of us hosts here today. First, Michael Cozy. How are you doing, sir?
What's going on, Derek? How's your Sunday going?
I mean, it's just another day, but joining us, you haven't seen him a lot lately. Mr. Wes, what's going on with you?
What's up, guys? Good to be back talking.
There you go. So basically, we got a list of stuff we're going to go down and talk about today. This is stuff that we've talked about on Browns After Dark. You know, as you guys seen in the intro, every Sunday and Wednesday, 9 p.m. Join us if you've not seen us already. I know there's probably going to be some new eyes on BAD with this podcast, so find us on Twitter. Everything will be in the description below. So first topic, this might get heated right off the bat. Dome or no dome? The Cleveland Browns are apparently looking into building a new stadium, which includes a dome or retractable roof. So I'm going to go to Cozy first because you've been complaining about this for the longest that I know. Dome or no dome? Whoa. Dome or no dome? Why?
Let's see here. So I know everyone's like, oh, man, we don't even use our advantage, like being on the lakefront, having the nasty wind. Like, it's been a disadvantage to us. Our kicker struggled. Well, now we have a kicker who can actually kick in this shit. And it's kind of like, to me, I kind of look at it and I'm like, you know, he's got a strong enough leg to kick in the wind. We get into a playoff game against someone and it turns into a field goal kicking contest or a tight game, and we can make the field goals and their kicker struggles and doesn't make them. I mean, a lot of the top teams do have really good kickers, but I just feel like, wouldn't we love to have a playoff game at home where it snowed like 8 inches and Deshaun goes out and still passes for like 325 yards and 4 touchdowns and we win the game, and the other team who we're playing is like the Las Vegas Raiders or even the San Diego Chargers? I mean, wouldn't that be like just great to have like a home field advantage like that? When you get a dome, it just takes that away. And yeah, everyone's like, oh, it'll be so loud. Like, our stadium's already loud. And I'm like, yeah, I agree. It would be louder in a dome, but our stadium is already plenty loud. Our fans get up, they get hyped up for it. I don't know. I just think that if they do a dome, I hope they take the one plan of where they're putting it, like over on like off of like East 9th or whatever, and right by the Muni lot. Like, they need to put it there, because if they move it uptown, then you're going to have a whole different like world of tailgating. Yeah. And it's going to be a lot of people are more going to bars before games than even going to tailgates. And like, there's not really much parking around there. And obviously they're going to put parking there, but I just don't think it will be the same. I think it would change a lot. So if they're going to build it, they might as well build it where they have on East 22nd. But I'm totally against it. I just think we're like saying, oh man, Deshaun struggles in the weather and he's not as great in the weather. And look at what happened when he played Cleveland last time. It was freezing cold and it hailed before the game, and then it went from like 65 to like 45, and it was windy the whole afternoon and he didn't do anything. And it's like, well, here's the other thing. He didn't have a team around him. So now he has a team around him. So I don't know. I think that we're going to make this dome, and who knows, maybe it's going to be, maybe we go to the playoffs this year and we host playoff games at home, and it's 4 inches of snow on the ground, and we win the game because the other team. I mean, we need to use that to our advantage. That's just my point. And our team's built to play in the cold too. Like, we run the ball a lot.
Okay, Wes, what do you think? Dome or no dome?
First, I will say that's probably the most I've ever heard Cozy actually elaborate on it. Usually just is boomeranging. I don't want the dome. You guys already know my answer. I mean, it was in my Twitter bio months ago before any of this even came out. Give me parentheses a dome. So, yeah. But I would not want like a dome. Actually, I would prefer a retractable roof, because then at least you still kind of can have somewhat of it wouldn't really be home field advantage if it's nice out, but like let's say it's fall, like late fall, winter, and it's like 40 out, but it's not terrible weather. Like you could still leave the roof open. You know what I'm saying? But I would say it would be awesome for like a snow playoff game, like he was saying. But I just think of the other 90% of the time, like when it's just terrible weather out and it's not good for either team, like it's not going to be a fun game to watch. Hypothetically, yeah, the one super snowy, cool playoff game is cool. But other than that, I'd rather just have a dome. Takes that element out of it. And who really wants to watch like a kickoff contest? I mean, a field goal contest. You know what I mean? Would it be cool to win it? Yeah, but typically we don't since Phil Dawson's gone. So I don't know. And the whole thing with Deshaun, I don't think it really matters that much. I think it would be more beneficial for us to have a retractable roof than not, but I don't think it's that big of a deal for him personally.
Yeah. So this is a very, very interesting conversation because as fans, this is stuff we talk about in hypotheticals. And now it seems like there's actual planning. So personally, I agree with Wes. I don't like the idea of a dome. More so, I like the retractable roof because I'm of the belief that football is meant to be played outside. Now, I think there are ways to still do that, but also have a roof on it. And that is through a retractable roof. I just think the benefits for me outweigh the consequences. I look at the city of Cleveland, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's right there. How many yearly concerts could you have? I've seen people bring up the argument of, oh, WrestleMania could come there. Well, now you're seeing the WWE bring not just like WrestleMania. They're now doing big stadiums like SummerSlam and Royal Rumble. I mean, it's at the Titan Stadium this year. So there's just so many opportunities for me with different events. People have talked about the Final Four. And the biggest factor, in my opinion, is you go out and you spend $230 guaranteed $1 million and you go out and get Deshaun Watson. I'm not saying he can't play outside because I 100% agree. He's a great quarterback. He can get the job done. Cozy, you brought up the game when he was in Cleveland. That weather was absolute dog shit. And, they still were able to do some things on the field. So it's not that he can't play there, but personally, if I'm the ownership, if I'm the Haslams, I'm looking at the upturn of this team and we're moving forwards as far as like, we're not the 0-16, 1-15 Browns anymore. We're doing things now. We've been to the playoffs. Why not take advantage of that for me and spend that money in something that can help you in the long run and also benefit your biggest, acquisition, I should say, in Deshaun Watson. That was a bad play on words, but I think it would just help out to begin with. Yeah, hey, you slip up sometimes, but I just think it's something that would be beneficial. I think it's going to get done. I don't know when, but it's a long time coming. And I think every cold weather NFL team should look into retractable roofs. But any of you guys have anything else on this topic?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, I agree it's going to bring a lot more stuff to the area. Like we could, like you said, get a WrestleMania, get a SummerSlam, get a Royal Rumble, get a Final Four, get a Super Bowl maybe. But we're going to get one of those like once every 20 years. We're not LA, we're not New Orleans, we're not a destination. I don't know. I get the feeling that if we hosted a Super Bowl, it would be like our one time in like 25 years.
I mean, we just got the draft and the All-Star game now. And didn't we get an MLB All-Star game now?
Yeah. It was MLB All-Star game, the draft, and then the NBA All-Star game.
Yeah.
Like they were all back-to-back years, basically.
Well, by the time this thing would be built, I mean, probably at least 2, 3, maybe 5 years.
It could be a while. And the thing is, so basically what we have to understand is they tried to get, there was talks of a dome quite a while ago with the Haslams, like in the early 2010s. And people were like kind of for it then. And then it kind of got squashed because the city didn't want to put the money forward to help them build. That's going to be their major dilemma there, is going to be, are we going to get the city, are there going to be an increase in taxes enough to where we can get the city to support it enough? Because I'm not sure there is going to be, because right now the stadium that they're doing just now, they're renovating it a little bit this year. It's only $10 million, but they're doing renovations on it. I think some way or another, either we're getting a dome or our stadium now is going to kind of be a little more enclosed and get renovated again.
Is it possible for them to like add the roof to the stadium now? Probably not, but
I think they discussed it at one point, like there was mention of it. I think that the Haslam just want a new stadium. They don't like an outdated stadium, and it's like, yeah,
it was what? It was built in 95?
99.
99. Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, so
it's not that old.
Yeah, I mean,
it's not new though, especially with all these new.
Yeah, it's definitely not new.
Like the Chargers Stadium, the Rangers Stadium.
It's definitely not new, but I don't know. I would just like to see it, honestly. I'd like to see them make a stadium like Seattle, to be honest with you. I like Seattle Stadium a lot.
I hate Seattle with a passion, so I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see when. It's not really an if to me. It's more of a when a new stadium is designed, whether if it's, sooner than later, or maybe in 5 to 10 years it gets brought back up again. Regardless, I can tell you who will not be playing in the new Cleveland Browns stadium for the Browns, and that is one Mr. Baker Reagan Mayfield. And interesting topic we got here, because now it is being reported that the Seattle Seahawks and the Cleveland Browns are close to a deal sending Baker to Seattle. Now, we had heard for the longest time now, pretty much ever since, we traded for Deshaun, that it was going to be down to the Carolina Panthers and the Seattle Seahawks. The Panthers obviously have Sam Darnold, and they drafted Matt Corral this year out of Ole Miss. So they have an interesting situation there. And then in Seattle, they have, Reliable there. And then they also traded for Drew Lock. So it's more of a battle of who wants to win now more, in my opinion. But I'll take it to you guys first. Cozy, do you think Baker ends up getting traded to Seattle or Carolina? And what do you think we get in return?
I think he's going to Seattle. I think they've had their eyes on him for a while. They've been trying to play their cards correctly and try and get the price knocked down. I think what's holding it up right now is the contract situation with how much money we're going to take on, how much money we're going to pay, and how much Seattle's going to pay. I could see like a 4th round pick, maybe a 3rd, something like that. Today is day 100 of the Baker Mayfield hostage situation by the Cleveland Browns, so it's kind of alarming. But yeah, it's been 100 days since we traded for Deshaun, and in those 100 days, no one's really shown a ton of interest for Baker. So it's kind of like, what are we waiting for? What are we waiting on? If there's no interest, maybe we do have to wait this thing out until someone gets hurt in training camp. That's pretty much if it doesn't get done with Seattle by the end of this week, I would love to do this what if the Deshaun news breaks on the suspension same day we trade Baker? Because then you're going to have multiple headlines, and I think it would take a lot away from like the Deshaun Watson suspension.
I think it's going to be, if it's not the same day, it's going to be a day before, day after. It's going to be like back-to-back some way or another, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the when it comes down to it, wherever he's going, at least in my opinion, I think he will be starting. I can't imagine that Drew Lock or Geno Smith is going to be starting for the Seattle Seahawks. Matt Corral is a rookie. He was drafted, I want to say, like 3rd, 4th round. Is he going to be ready day one? I doubt it. Sam Darnold is what he is. I mean, we've seen that now on 2 separate teams. Everybody thought that Sam Darnold was going to be the savior, should have been the number 1 overall pick, and he flopped. So regardless of where he goes on those 2 teams, Baker Mayfield will be the starter. Now, it's important to remember he's still rehabbing. So it's not just the football side of things. He's also physically still continuing to get himself in better shape. And he's also going to have to learn a whole new offense. So if you're going to bring in a starting quarterback, you need to do it ASAP. And if it didn't happen during the draft, we knew it was going to be kind of a long wait. And here we are, camps rolling around, teams are getting to see these guys up in person. And it's like, whoa, hey, this might not be it for our starting quarterback position. So I'd imagine it gets done pretty soon. Now, my question to you two would be, given the situations, you look at Carolina and Matt Rule, either he's winning this year or he's not. There's no in between. He's either going to be fired or he's going to have a good enough season that he stays. Then I take it to Seattle and I look at Pete Carroll. They traded Russell Wilson. They got a ton of picks. They're looking towards a rebuild, but they still have a core group of guys there. You know, obviously Carroll is older. To me, it comes down to who wants to win more. So my question to you two would be, of those 2 situations, who is most desperate to make the move now?
I feel like it's got to be Seattle. I just feel like Carolina, ever since when they were still good with Cam, they've just been it's just not run well. They're not like right now Browns, like just dog shit every year. But I mean, I think there was a stat, even when they were good, they haven't had 2 winning seasons in a row. Like even when they were going 11-5 or 12-4, the next year they're right back 7-9. Like they're just not that well run. I would say, I think I saw it was either yesterday or maybe today that Browns are supposedly willing to pay half of his contract. I think it's going to be whoever, because I mean, it's like that balancing. The more we pay, the better pick we would get. I feel like, I don't know why we're so worried about the money we're paying. Like, just get rid of them at this point and see if the best you can get back. Because obviously money isn't that big of a deal.
I mean, we have $40 million in cap space.
Right.
There's $18 million.
If you got to pay 13 or 14 million of it to get a third or a fourth, like, just do it. You know, yeah. I don't know why they're hardballing so much over a couple $1 million, but I'm not Andrew Barry. So
I think he's going to Seattle. I think that's going to be the best place for him. And here's the thing:
I thought originally Carolina, but I think Seattle now.
Seattle has to they got to look at it like this, and this is just my opinion on it. What if Baker goes out and has another 30 touchdowns and 8 interception season? I mean, that we saw 2 years ago, and he's back to the up and down. Like, I don't think Seattle's going to give him a big contract after that, but they may sign him for another year after this. So I think if you're looking at Seattle and what they're trying to do, I think you're kind of looking at possibly where they get this contract out there and they get him traded for, and he does well and he plays for them maybe 2 more years after this or something like that. I mean, we don't know. Where I just don't think the situation in Carolina is going to be good. Like I don't think he's going to be that good. Although I have heard people comment that they don't want him to go to Carolina because we play them week 1. and he will torch us week 1. And I'm just kind of like, okay, we'll see about that.
That would be epic for us to play them week 1.
Oh. It would be, yeah.
It would be at home too, right?
No, it's at Carolina.
No, it's at Carolina, yeah.
But I guarantee you a lot of our fan base will show up to that game.
We don't play Seattle this year, right?
No, we don't. We play Seattle in 2 years, I believe.
Oh, yeah, because we just got the West last year.
It's at Seattle. Or no, it's...
I think it'd be 3 years. Because didn't we get the West division last year?
No, we got the West.
No.
We played the AFC West last year.
When did we play the Cardinals?
No,
wasn't that last year?
It was 2019. It was 2019 because it was
the
Freddie
Cardinals
Kitchens
was the AFC NFC crossover game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
and then we also played them in 19 because
I remember playing the Cardinals and his shoulder was supposedly hurt. But
2019 was the game where we started out the game up 28-7 and we blew the lead.
Yeah. So I think another little important thing to remember here is, as far as these two teams, I think Seattle, in my opinion, has the best leverage or I should say the best leverage over Carolina, because with the Russ trade, they got this abundance of draft picks, and it would not hurt them at all to give up a third or a fourth if it takes, to get the job done and ultimately trade for Baker Mayfield. So we will see on that. But some news close to home here. The Browns' current starting quarterback, obviously until a suspension is given, Deshaun Watson, has settled 20 of his 24 cases. To some people, this was not a surprise. To others, it was. Kind of caught you off guard. But it seems that there's somewhat of a resolution coming to this to an extent. So I'll start with you, Wes, first. Or never mind. I'll start with Cozy first.
Sorry.
No, you're good. What'd you think of the decision of him settling ultimately on these 20 so far?
I mean, I was surprised a little bit, but like when you think about it, it makes sense, especially if you look at the timeline of everything. Can't remember what the beginning of it was, but just that the NFL was talking about suspending, and then I think he met with them a few weeks ago, right? Mm-hmm. And then I think they said they would like to get something decided by July 1st. And then this comes out, a few days ago. So it was either in conjunction, the Browns and the NFL, or one of the two, probably saying, look, this is what you get if you settle all these cases. If you don't, either there's no telling, or you would get at least a year or something like that. It's kind of weird that he wasn't able to do all of them, but at the same time, from what you can see, or what I've seen, is that it's more money for those. I want to know who. Busby put it out. Never mind. That makes sense then. I was going to say, I would wonder why it was even reported if they were not all settled. But once again, Busby is putting everything out there that he wants to put out there. And that's kind of been his game the whole time. So, I don't know.
Cozy?
I'm a little worried about the whole thing because I've seen multiple reports from SI saying that the NFL is trying to get him indefinitely suspended. That kind of scares me because that means we don't have a set number of games. Probably going to be put on the commissioner's exempt list, even though Roger Goodell said he wasn't going to do that. I don't know. It doesn't seem to be trending towards Deshaun's favor or the Browns' favor. And it kind of seems almost like I've said this multiple times, why did we ever trade for him if we thought there was a possibility he was going to be suspended for a whole year? No team would have traded for him. You can't tell me, or I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty convinced that we talked with the NFL, got a set number of teams to make this trade. And if the NFL let this trade go through and now they've changed their stance on it, I could understand if there was some big breaking, something happened, new information that we didn't even know about. And like some of these newer cases, like they're some of the worst, but it's like they're not pressing for criminal, they're pressing for civil only. And I don't think that that's like, I don't know, like I think he's put himself in a lot of bad situations. I think the NFL knew that, but I just feel like the tide is kind of turning on this, where like I thought it was going to be 4 to 6 games, then maybe 8. Now I'm hearing 10 to 12. If it's 12 at this point, I think I'd rather just have him be suspended for the whole season, because then his contract won't start until the following year. So I don't know. It's just I don't like how it's trending. Let's put it that way. I'm a little worried.
I got one more thing, if I can.
Go ahead.
The only thing I was thinking with them talking like this is because originally we were all talking about, oh, how many games, and now it's kind of they're talking about this. I feel like there's no way that they're actually going to pursue that kind of thing, or if they do, like, dude, they know it's not going to just happen. Like the NFLPA will freak out. Like it's not that there will be a fight about it. So I think maybe they're saying this. They know NFLPA is going to come back at them, and then ultimately they'll end up just coming back to what we were originally saying, like in the middle, some sort of just anywhere from 6 to maybe 10, and then, you know, appeal after that type thing. I don't know how they could, like Cozy said, let this go through, probably telling the Browns and other teams, because I'm sure we were the ones that ultimately did it, but there was still the Saints and the Falcons, and I think Carolina was still in at one point, right? So they all had to have talked to the NFL in one way or another about the suspension. So if they let all this go through and then now they want to do something ridiculous like indefinite and all that, I just don't see it happening. But who knows, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a sticky situation, to say the least. My personal opinion is I think the NFL has used Deshaun Watson almost as the poster boy to cover up the stuff that they've been dealing with behind the scenes with Dan Snyder, Brian Flores,
Robert Kraft.
And it's reached the point to where they have to address the Dan Snyder stuff, because that's starting to become really public, to the point where you got Congress and stuff like that getting involved.
That's going to be an NFLPA point too.
Yes, absolutely, as it should be. But from the NFL side of things, if you use Deshaun as kind of like, hey, this is what we want you to focus on, and now there's other major stuff coming up, to me, it's almost like they have to switch the roles now, to where they want Deshaun to go away and they want to try to handle this other stuff first. So my opinion is that the NFL said, hey, dude, we got to get this handled. If you settle, we'll help you out. Obviously, that's never going to be public, but behind the scenes, as a business side of things, it just makes too much sense. So we will see. Yeah, it just makes too much sense for both. I don't believe he's going to get a full year. I think it's going to be anywhere between 8 and probably 10 games. But at the same time, the NFLPA, like you said, has all the ammunition they need to get this lowered. I mean, the NFL is so hypocritical when it comes to situations. Obviously, they're now using a different form of judgment, with a different ruling system. But at the same time, the PA is going to stand up for the players regardless. So we will see on that. Go ahead.
Did you guys see? Damn it, I forget where I saw it. I think it was honestly on Instagram, but it was different quotes from. It was a couple league officials, and there was a player, and there was a coach, and I think a GM on their the lawyer that's gonna take this case that also did the oh my god, I can't think of it. You know what I'm talking about? The new lawyer that I could try to find it, but
Hesser or whatever his name is.
I think so. Yeah.
He's the NFL Players Association representative.
Yeah, like there's a bunch of quotes from like league officials saying they hate him, like he's good, and then the coach was like, "I love that guy because he gets my players back on the field," like stuff like that. Like that dude is no joke. Even if they didn't have all the Dan Snyder, Robert Kraft kind of nonsense, like either way, the NFLPA was going to have a good fight to put up with. I mean, They're not there. People will forget about them or think they're there just for no reason, but they're really not. They're there for stuff like this. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And regardless of what happens, it is safe to say that at some point in the season, the man that you can barely see behind us here, Jacoby Brissett, will be starting for the Cleveland Browns at some point for however long he needs to. It's kind of interesting, the public opinion of Jacoby Brissett with all this Deshaun stuff going on. Some people are still dumb enough to think that Baker Mayfield is somehow going to be the day one starter for the Browns. You're full of shit if you believe that. But I guess in your guys' opinions, what do you think the expectation should be for a Jacoby Brissett-led Cleveland Browns football heading into the 2022 season?
Go ahead.
you want to go, Cozy? Okay.
No, go ahead.
I mean, dude, you can start here with that he's better than Case Keenum. And people that want to say otherwise are, I'm not even going to go there. And he started plenty of games. Like, yeah, Case Keenum had one good season. I don't care. And he's old. I think Jacoby is, what, 31, 32, 33?
He's 29.
He's still 29?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Wow. I looked up. Anyway, I thought he was at least 30, 31. But anyway. I mean, dude, he's not amazing, but he's a bigger dude. He's got a pretty big arm. He's not gonna throw 5-yard dunks like Case Keenum would. At least you can try things in the offense with him. You're not gonna do everything, like especially you would with Deshaun, but he's gonna be solid, I think. I mean, and him having as much experience as he does on pretty good organizations like the Patriots and the Colts, he's not gonna lose you games. And then you still have a very good offensive line. You still got that running game. The receiving core is, I think, is going to surprise some people, be fairly good. You got Njoku, and then you got a good defense to rely on. I mean, he's not going to have to be Deshaun Watson. He just needs to not be Baker Mayfield and lose you games.
So Jacoby Brissett, he started 2 seasons for the Colts. 2017 and 2019. So 2017 Colts, they were pretty bad. They're 4-12. But their roster was just awful. I mean, Brissett was getting back all the time and pretty much.
Didn't they have one of the worst run defenses in the league that year?
They did, yeah.
They were just getting ran over.
Also, then he started 2019, and they went 7-9. So, I mean, I kind of look at it. It's like, okay, so
pull up his stats for that year.
Yeah, so the Colts year, the first year that the 2019 season, the most recent year that he started 15 games, they went 7-8 under him. He threw for 2,942 yards. 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and had a quarterback rating of 88.
And his completion is kind of low-ish, right?
I want to say, yeah, I think it is. I think it was something that was not great. Let's put it that way.
It's like low 60s. But, I mean, that's why he's not a starting quarterback. He's a backup.
True.
Because if he had a 66% completion rating and 25 touchdowns to 7 picks and 3,500 yards, I mean, you're not going to be a backup.
He had 60.9 completion percentage.
Yeah, I thought it was 60, 61.
So, but last year he started in 5 games for the Dolphins. He was 2-3 in those games. He had a 62% completion rating, threw for 1,200 yards. And he threw only 5 touchdowns but 4 interceptions. So, like, it's decent. Yeah, it's not terrible. And he's not a starter in the NFL. But with the roster that we have, we could make this work, I think. Yeah. Like, we went 8-9 last year. And, like, we can talk about that all day long. We probably win the division if Baker doesn't get hurt. We might win the division in a landslide.
We still almost won the division.
I know. That's the thing. If Baker stays healthy, Baker's our quarterback this year, no doubt. Mm-hmm. Like, we would not have traded. we probably would have made the playoffs. We probably would have won the division. We might have been the number 1 seed in the AFC last year had Baker not gotten hurt, because the Chiefs had that struggle. The Titans got the number 1 seed, and they were 12-5. So they weren't like, I mean, I could think of probably 5 or 6 games that we lost that we probably should have won with either a kicker or Baker being healthy.
You should have beat the Raiders with Nick Mullins.
Oh, exactly. Well, I think the important. Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, you're
one thing that since we were talking about like stuff like that, if this happened, whatever, dude, I used to think about it all the time. Like, I wish that we weren't as bad as we were. And then at the 2018 year when we were like 2-5-1,
yes,
or whatever, when Hugh got fired, and then we ended up doing well and barely missed the playoffs. I wanted to make the playoffs so bad, but I was like, dude, if we would have played decent and ended up making the playoffs, like, we would have never, ever got rid of Hugh Jackson. And I would have been sick, and we would have never been a good team.
We fired Hugh Jackson in the middle.
That's what I'm saying, because we were 2-5-1.
Yeah.
Imagine if we were actually decent at the beginning of the year, like 4-3 or something, and we would have never fired Hugh Jackson.
No, we would have fired Hugh Jackson.
I don't know, dude.
No. We were 2-5-1 because of Hugh Jackson. We started off being better because of Greg Williams.
I know. It makes me sick thinking about it.
I don't know. The Haslams love him some Hugh. I mean,
that, and if he finally just was, dude, could you imagine his cringy victory lap tour if he started winning?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I said, look at the tape. I looked at the tape, and now we're winning. I'm Hugh Jackson. Like, no,
dude, it's one of those things. It's kind of like with Baker, right? We joke about the Texans and how the Texans have always kind of worked in our favor for whatever reason. When you have, Baker get injured on that play, trying to make the tackle, and it's like all of a sudden now we have Deshaun Watson. It's like, what? It's just kind of crazy, and it even goes back way further than that. But kind of back to Jacoby, I think it's important to remember, Wes kind of touched on this, the Browns, they're going to surround Jacoby with probably the best that he's had to work with maybe in his entire career. Maybe not every single position is the best it's ever been, but when you factor in what the Browns are going to do, they're going to play Cleveland Browns football. You're going to see us do what we've done for the last few years. We're going to be damn good running the football. Our offensive line is going to be maulers as usual. We're going to get the ball to the tight ends. We're going to get the ball. Now we have some pretty good receivers. Amari Cooper's really good, in my opinion. David Bell is going to surprise a lot of people, I think, with his consistency. DPJ could take a massive step. Anthony Schwartz could step up. You just don't know. And the defense got even better. So everybody who's sitting here saying, oh, the Browns are going to be terrible, they're going to have 2 wins, you don't know football. I mean, the Browns did not. The Browns won a decent amount of games last year with a one-armed Baker Mayfield who threw some of the wildest passes I've ever seen in my life. So if you're telling me we have a guy like Jacoby who's bigger, who's more of a pocket guy, but can still move around and just hit his targets, that's all he needs to do. We're not asking for elite quarterback play. We're going to do what we do elite, running the football, playing defense. Jacoby's just got to be that consistent game manager that everybody thinks is the worst thing ever to say, but that's all we need him to do. So everybody's hating on Jacoby, but I think he can definitely get the job done. You guys have anything else on Jacoby?
Not really. I mean, I'm just excited to have football coming back, and we're going to have to not hear about all the off-field drama. Like, I want to get the suspension up. Like, I want to know how long it's going to be, so then we can start thinking about, like, football instead of it's always going to be about the suspension. And, I mean, I was with somebody yesterday that I hadn't seen for a while, and they're not Browns fans, and they were giving it to me about, oh, man, what a terrible organization you guys have. And it's kind of like, well, I mean, if Deshaun did all that he's accused of, then, yeah, he's probably not going to be our quarterback because he's going to do it again. And the thing is, like with Jacoby, it's like I keep saying to them, like I made a statement and I said, "Oh, well, we have Jacoby Brissett," and they go, "Oh, he's terrible. I don't even know if we want to play." Like I'm like, "Okay," and they're Bengals fans, and they're like, "Well, they're not even close to Joe Burrow," and I'm like, "Well, Jacoby's going to be fine. We won 41-16 with Baker Mayfield, who had an amazing game. I mean, it probably was his best game of the year by far."
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Other than the Chiefs game. He did have a good game against the Chiefs.
Until that last drive.
Yeah, until the last drive. He had a really good game against the Chiefs.
Dude, I remember I was so hyped watching that game. I was like, dude, we look nice.
Yeah, we did.
Anthony Schwartz looked like he was actually somewhat decent.
Dude, I was talking shit, too, because I was at a sports bar, but like a big one where like a bunch of groups of fans will come. And our Browns, I'm a member of like a Browns backers thing down here, and we had a whole like section, but then there was a whole other couple tables of like Chiefs fans and they like to run their mouth. Speaking of that, my new job I started, one of my friends works there, and he's a big Chiefs fan, and he even said to me yesterday, he's like, bro, you guys, yeah, Baker #1 pick, you got you to playoffs, and then you guys are just screwing him over and trading him. I'm like, yeah, and nobody wants him. But then the funny thing is, he was saying all this, but at the end we like agreed because we actually had a logical conversation about it, and he was, yeah, he'll be back up. And I'm like, see, like everything you just said is moot. But the Jacoby thing, like a lot of people that are saying all this stuff that he's not that good were probably also people last year that said Case Keenum is good enough. Like, just play him.
Exactly. Yeah.
And, dude, I'm taking Jacoby over Case Keenum every day of the week. It's not like it's not even close. It's not Deshaun Watson Baker level of separation, but I mean, there's separation. Like, you can run an offense with Jacoby. Will he do it perfectly? No, but you can do more than just hand off and 5-yard out routes off a bootleg and like screen passes. You can run an offense.
Do you think there's any way in this world that legit we don't trade Baker and ask him to play?
No
chance.
Oh,
I've seen national reporters that keep saying that he's going to play.
No. Ooh, Mike Florio.
No, not Mike Florio. It was
I can't stand that guy.
Oh man.
It's funny you say that because literally I kind of keep my phone up just in case that Baker gets traded during the podcast.
Yeah, I know. I've been
That'd be awesome.
Like, are we going to be live when he gets traded?
That would be insane. But just talking about that, one of the things that popped up on my phone was from Bleacher Report. I don't know. Oh, it says ESPN. Okay, ESPN. It says, this is big news, guys. You didn't know this. Brissett may be the Browns' QB1. Cleveland is expected to roll with Jacoby, not Baker, as starting QB if Watson gets suspended. Well, no shit. I mean,
is that real?
Have we not been saying that since day one?
No, dude, tell me you're lying. Is that fake news?
It's unbelievable. I just don't understand this. Oh, exactly. Pay $1 today. I don't understand the I don't understand the national media. I just don't get why they keep doing this stuff. Like, is it just us being Browns fans that we have common sense, or do they genuinely believe there was ever a shot that Baker could be starting? It just, I don't understand.
Dude, even back to the Deshaun thing, like, I think about it all the time. Like, yeah, of course I'm glad we got him. But I just feel like, dude, like, of course it was us that, like, has to deal with this shit.
Yep.
Like, I feel like if he ended up going to Atlanta or New Orleans, like,
they would have ignored it.
Yeah, it's still going to be reported. It's still going to be talked about. But I just feel like it wouldn't be anywhere near the amount of, like, scrutiny and criticism and, the Browns are fucking stupid. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I completely agree. But so we got a couple more things before we wrap up today, and one of them was some news that broke. You can't really see, but if you look close, you can tell. No, it's Kareem Hunt. So
it's like this much.
Well, you're on your phone. If so
Yeah.
the news broke that Kareem Hunt is apparently wanting to come back to Cleveland, even if it means a team-friendly deal. So it's a bit interesting because we know how the life of running backs are. It's really short. Kareem obviously had his issues, which is what got him on the Browns. And he hasn't really had a massive payday. So for Kareem, this would be really a big life decision. I mean, he's not going to get a crazy amount of money, but if he were to leave the Browns, I'd imagine he could definitely get something bigger. So my question to you guys is, hey, Kareem wants to come back. Would you do it?
Absolutely, yes, 100%. I'm in.
Dude, yeah, people are trying to trade him in the Deshaun trade and saying throw him in for a Baker trade. Like, people have been trying to trade him, and I don't know why. He's making a couple $1 million, and it just doesn't make sense to get rid of him. If you can bring him back for, because what is he making now? About $6 million a year, something like that.
I think so. I think it's like 5 or 6.
Yeah, dude, if you can bring him back at around that same number or maybe a little bit more, I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. I mean, we have plenty of cap space. Cap's only going to go up a couple $1 million to keep a dude who wants to be here. Just yeah.
Well, we rarely have people who want to be here. So, like, that's the other point. Like, this guy grew up a Browns fan. He wants to be here. He wants to be at Cleveland's his home. Like,
and he's a good player.
It's a no-brainer. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not like he's like a. I saw something about Joe Haden supposedly wanting to come back. It's not like it would be if we still had Joe Haden and he's like 30, whatever the hell he is, like, and he's like a player that still wants to stay. It's not that, because I don't even think Kareem's 30 yet. Was he 28, 29?
I think he's 28 or 29, yeah.
Yeah, like, no. It's no-brainer.
And another thing, I think the Browns are a little bit of trendsetters. I mean, I'm sure we're not the first ones to do it, but if you look at the league, everybody's going towards the dual running back system to where you have two really number ones. I mean, look at Dallas. You know, they have Ezekiel Elliott. They signed him long-term, but they also drafted Tony Pollard, whatever, because Jerry Jones was like, hey, I like him and I want him. And guess what? Now Zeke's underperforming, and they have two guys there that they continuously rotate. And for the Browns, I mean, we've seen this team do this, and Kevin Stefanski's system is so run-heavy, especially this season. If Deshaun is not going to be here for most of the year, like I said earlier, you're going to see the same, you know, style of Browns offense for the most part. So it wouldn't hurt if you want to continue and bring Kareem Hunt back. Like you said, it's super cheap. He's not too old. This is not like an Adrian Peterson, Frank Gore situation we're talking about here.
Right.
This is Kareem Hunt. This is a guy who was at the top of his game, you know, who's not – I mean, he's still got plenty of years left to play at a high level, in my opinion. So now you did draft Jerome Ford, and I'm on the record. I think Jerome Ford is as identical to Kareem Hunt pretty much as you can get as far as a build and a style of play. Now, I do think he needs time. I think he needs to put on size, just continuously get better. So if you can bring Kareem Hunt back for another year or two, in my opinion, that's only buying Jerome more time. And then possibly there for a year or so, you could have 3 great running backs. So obviously what's going to happen with Ernest Johnson is going to happen. Yeah. So I think the Browns are in a good spot. So, and one of the last topics here before we wrap up, I should say this is the last Browns topic, and then we're going to get into the Cavs first pick there for a second. Wes, you brought up Joe Haden. So let's dive into this here real quick. Joe Haden apparently is interested in coming back to the Cleveland Browns.
I didn't even know you were doing this as a topic. That's funny.
Well, it's a last minute thing that I threw in there, but I don't know how to feel on this personally, and I guess I'll go first because I like Joe Haden a lot. I know he left us, and that whole situation is what it is. But at the same time, this corner room is kind of stacked. The question is more so, where does he fit in for me? But and this is my hypothetical situation. Let's just say you bring Joe Haden back. It would be very cheap. what you could do is almost have a really good rotation on the outside. I think you could have Ward Newsome be versatile and play inside. I think AJ Green, you could say the same. Greedy and Emerson right now are really your guys that you have to have playing on the outside. I think if you brought back Haden, that would bring some much needed depth as far as like we know how quick these guys get injured. So we can look and say we got all the depth in the world, but they go quick. So I think it's veteran leadership because if I'm not mistaken, Denzel Ward's the oldest in the room right now. He's a Cleveland Brown. He wants to come back. I'd be interested in it because it buys Emerson more time to continue to develop. But what do you guys think of it?
You want to go with me?
Go ahead, Wes.
I've never been the biggest Joe Haden guy, mostly because he's a Gator. I hate Florida Gators. But I think it'd make a lot of sense. Like I said, it'd be different if it was us hypothetically, like if he never left, us trying to hold on to him and he wants a certain amount of money or whatever. But obviously he's not going to be wanting a bunch of money. I was going to say what you pretty much said, just extra depth, because probably Ward's going to tweak a hammy or an ankle or elbow or something at some point. Nothing major, hopefully, but probably have a game or two out here or there. Same with maybe Greedy. And then he'd be perfect. He's a much different kind of corner than Emerson, but he'd be just extra teaching for him and Newsome and even Ward a little bit. I mean, Ward's a stud. He doesn't really need much, but the depth, cheapness of the contract, I mean, I don't really see any kind of downside to it. So,
yeah. Cozy, what did you think of it?
Other than he's a Gator.
I'm pretty much out after where he went to play. Sorry, you just can't go to Pittsburgh and then come back because they got rid of you. And you made all these comments about the Cleveland organization as it was as well, and you kind of took a few shots at our fan base as well. So,
what do you say about the fans?
I mean, he said he was gracious for them, but he said there's nothing like Pittsburgh fans at one point. And I get he plays for them, and I get you want to say that, but dude didn't have to go to play in Pittsburgh.
I didn't even think about the whole Pittsburgh thing. I'm still that he was a Gator.
I mean, he's a Trader Joe, so.
Yeah. I mean, I think whatever limited time he would play, I think he could do pretty well at, because it's not like he's going to be relied on like that. He would just kind of be thrown in, and he's somebody you could probably plug and play, and he'd be just fine.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel on it as well. So the last thing before we wrap up here, we're going to switch topics and go to a different sport of the city of Cleveland, and that is the Cleveland Cavaliers and their first draft pick. So I don't know how to pronounce his name, and I'm not going to embarrass myself trying. So, Wes, I'll let you take this one.
Ochai. Dude, it just happened to be a couple hours ago. I was watching a couple film breakdowns of him and stuff, and like pros and cons on him. And I mean, none of it was really a surprise. I hated watching him play my Tar Heels and winning, but I want him on the Cavs. I think he's a perfect fit, dude. He's a knockdown shooter. He's elite from the corners. He knows how to slide and make space to get himself open. He's not very good one-on-one, like at all. His handles are pretty weak. And just kind of his overall driving, his floater game, and sometimes his finishing is not very good. But I feel like that's stuff he can work on. But he's got really, really good off-the-ball athleticism. Obviously, you've seen the dunks. He's got really good potential on defense, too. He slides his feet really well, and then he walls up. Like, he doesn't get baited into many shot fakes. You know, when a lot of players, they'll be defending, they're playing good defense, staying in front, and then like a dude like Trae Young or whoever baits him into fouling him. He doesn't do that very much. He stays on his feet, but doesn't give airspace. I think he's got a lot of potential. The only thing that scares me is that I hope he doesn't end up being like another one of my old favorite players that played for Kansas, Ben McLemore, because I love that dude. He was a knockdown shooter, crazy athletic, but he's actually doing decent now. But he definitely was a bust because I think he was a top 5, top 6 pick. Obviously, Ochai isn't, but I think he'd fit a role we need as a knockdown shooter with still can play D and be explosive. So,
Cozy.
I kind of like our whole draft class in general. I think.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, I didn't think Ochai was going to make it to us, to be honest with you. So I was kind of happy when he made it to us at 14. I believe there was a statement he made. He said something about he would really be impressed to like end up a Cleveland Cavalier. I don't know if that was.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a fake report or if that was actual real report, but I like the pick. I mean, once again, the Cavs are a weird up and coming. Like we're not the top 5 picks or a guaranteed lottery pick anymore. Like I'm starting to think we're going to be like very competitive for the next 5 to 10 years.
Like there's no reason we're not a top 4 or 5 seed next year. No reason.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like the pick. It's like you talked about, Wes. We desperately needed somebody who can hit from outside the arc. I think he can do that. It'll be interesting to see what happens with some guys like, Mr. Okoro, who's a bit controversial. We'll see. I think he's a good fit. I don't know that he necessarily is going to start, but I think he's somebody who can eventually work into, being a valuable part of this core group of guys that the Cavs got here. Because we're a little bit interesting. JC, who will eventually be on this podcast, the Frog Man, didn't want to show up today. But yeah, exactly. So it's kind of like what he says, where the Cavs are almost like the Ravens of the NFL, to where they don't really rely on receivers. They kind of get the job done through the run game and the tight ends with the big men. It's kind of like the Cavs. They don't, they use who they got with Mobley and Allen being dominant. And Garland gets the job done. And the Cavs, in my opinion, that's great, but they needed to add something like they have now, to where you can count on somebody on the outside continuously, not just rely on one thing. So we will see. But taking a little bit here from Browns After Dark, since this is the Browns After Dark podcast, final thoughts before we wrap up here. I'll go to Wes first.
2 things real quick, just because I wanted to add to that too. I think LeVert takes a big step next year. And then, obviously, I think what they're thinking with Ochai is either Okoro pans out like they think he will, and he ends up just being like Ochai ends up being a nice 6-man piece type like that for a while, until he could eventually end up earning a starting role if it opens up, or Okoro's just poop and ends up getting it much quicker. But as far as the Browns, I mean, obviously, we don't really know this whole suspension thing, but I think even if worst case scenario, he was supposedly gone for a year, you can still compete, maybe get in the playoffs. I don't think he will. I'm going to stick with the 6 to 8. And I think if we do that, we're 11, 12, maybe 13-win team still. So that's about it. And yes, retractable roof / dome, Cozy.
No on the dome, obviously. Joe Haden
doesn't like dome.
Joe Haden to me is still a traitor. Kareem Hunt should be a lifelong Brown. I think that it's going to be interesting to see where this suspension goes, because I'm not liking where it's heading right now with the reports that are coming out. So, but other than that, I still think we're going to be a very competitive football team and could win a decent amount of games. So I'm not too worried about that. So that's about it.
Absolutely. It's going to be an interesting week for us Browns fans. Hopefully Baker Mayfield gets traded by 4 p.m. Obviously late that Wednesday. But,
dude, if he ends up getting traded at 4 p.m., I will lose my fucking mind. I cannot wait.
That would be insane.
Like 358, dude. Connor will
Yeah.
have a field day.
Oh, absolutely. So, gonna be a lot going on this week. But as always, Browns After Dark, Sunday and Wednesday, 9 p.m. Be there. But with that being said, everybody, leave us a like. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. And if you liked what we talked about today, you can find more, on the other 50 billion videos there are. So be appreciative if you'd subscribe. So with that being said, everybody, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.